Hello, my name is William Burton, and I'm here to talk about my experience with the bystander effect and how you can make sure that if there's ever an emergency situation, you yourself will not be frozen in place as me, my friends, and others did upon seeing an emergency. About 10 years ago, when I was a teenager, me and my friends, we were all going to see one of the new Avengers movies. It was a big time when I was in high school, and everyone looked forward to watching these movies every single year. Upon entering the movie theater, me and my two friends, Noah and Josiah, immediately noticed, along with me, that there was a girl sitting on the bench who didn't look very well. She actually looked extremely out of it. But we just kept on walking as normal. Upon walking right in front of her, she fell on the floor, began to convulse, and was having a seizure on the floor right in front of us. Instead of jumping to the rescue, or asking her if she needed help, or calling 911, we simply looked around. We looked at one another. We looked from the left to the right, and everyone was just looking at one another. There were probably about 50 to 60 people in that movie theater. And when those 50 to 60 people saw that that woman was laying on the ground having a seizure, nobody went to help her for the first 15, 20 seconds. Everyone was frozen in place, just kind of looking around like, hey, who's going to be the one to do it? And it wasn't me, and it wasn't my friends. I always found myself as someone who would be immediate to jump and help anyone whenever the opportunity presented itself, but I didn't, especially in a moment when the individual needed me the most. That left me and my friends extremely discouraged, and we weren't entirely sure why, because that's not how we've ever viewed ourselves. But upon reading our textbook, I was able to read about the bystander effect and how interesting it was and how it can actually affect every individual due to the prosocial behavior that it inhibits in us. So I'm going to read this chart right here so that we can help ensure that this doesn't happen. When we notice an incident, we have to make sure that we interpret it as an emergency. If it's no emergency, we don't need to get any help in any way. So if you notice an emergency, you need to assume responsibility. If you don't assume responsibility, that individual isn't going to get any help whatsoever. It can be very easy when in one of these difficult situations to look around and wait for someone to help. But you have to assume that other individuals aren't aware of this phenomenon with large people groups. So you have to make sure you jump right on it and help these individuals and not wait on other people to do it. Once you assume responsibility, you have to move on down the line. You have to try to help in whatever way you can. If there's nothing you're sure what to do, well, call 911, call for help. Ask the individual if there's any support that you can provide for them. I mean, here you go. Here's one really interesting statistic that I read, that when research assistants accidentally dropped coins or pencils during around 1,500 elevator rides, they were helped 40% of the time when one person was in the elevator and less than 20% of the time when there were 6. That's wild. It's interesting that individuals are far less likely to actually help or assist other people when there's other people around that they can assume will help. We shouldn't pass this burden on other individuals. We should accept it ourselves. And that is a way that we can grow together as individuals, as a community, or in a workforce to overcome the bystander effect. Thank you.